It was a warm spring evening in Frisco, Texas, April 2nd, 2025. The air buzzed with the excitement of a high school track meet at David Kuykendall Stadium. Families filled the stands, teammates stretched on the grass. Music played softly over the speakers. It was a scene familiar to any American high school, hopeful, energetic, and full of promise. But by the time the sun had set, a young life would be lost, and another would be changed forever. 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, a promising student-athlete with dreams of competing at the collegiate level, had no idea that this ordinary day would be his last. And neither did Karmelo Anthony, another 17-year-old who would soon find himself in police custody, charged with murder. Their paths crossed in a moment of conflict that escalated with terrifying speed. What began as a verbal disagreement over seating space at a team tent ended in bloodshed, heartbreak, and shock across the community. To understand what really happened, we have to start at the beginning. Who were these boys? What was the relationship between them? And what led to a confrontation so explosive it ended in death? Austin Metcalf wasn't just another face on a school roster. He was an honor roll student, a runner on the school's varsity track team, and a kid who pushed himself every single day. Friends described him as determined, respectful, and quietly competitive. He didn't talk big, but his performance spoke for him. He was often seen leading warm-ups, setting up equipment, and encouraging teammates, even the ones who lagged behind. He was a leader, said one coach, not just in running, but in how he carried himself. Outside of school, Austin was close with his younger sister and his mother, a single parent who often worked late shifts but never missed a meet. Austin dreamed of attending college on a sports scholarship, not just to compete but to help take care of his family. He wasn't perfect, no teenager is, but he stayed out of trouble. He respected his coaches. He followed the rules. And on that April evening, he was doing exactly what he had always done, showing up, putting in the work, and leading by example. Karmelo Anthony, no relation to the famous NBA player, was a quieter figure on campus. Not particularly known for athletics and not involved in the track team, Karmelo's presence at the event initially raised a few eyebrows. Some students recognized him as a loner, others described him as intense with bursts of anger that came out unexpectedly. But most students didn't know much about him. He kept to himself. He wasn't popular, but he wasn't openly hostile either, just distant. Sources close to the investigation later confirmed that Karmelo was not officially part of the team that day. He had no assigned duties, no events to run. Yet he was there, sitting in a tent reserved for athletes, eating snacks, talking on his phone, and watching the events unfold. Some say he looked bored. Others say he looked agitated. But one thing is clear. When Austin asked him to move, something snapped. It happened sometime around 7:45 p.m., shortly before one of the relay events was scheduled to begin. Witnesses say Austin approached Karmelo and politely told him the tent was for athletes only. Karmelo refused to move. At first, the exchange seemed calm, a few words, a shake of the head. But then voices grew louder. Karmelo allegedly accused Austin of acting like he ran the place. Austin, in turn, insisted that rules were rules. What happened next remains under investigation, but according to eyewitnesses and police reports, the argument escalated into a physical confrontation. Austin reached down, possibly to remove Karmelo's belongings from the bench. That's when Karmelo stood up and pulled a knife. In front of dozens of students, coaches, and parents, Karmelo allegedly stabbed Austin 3 times in the chest and abdomen before anyone could intervene. Screams rang out across the stadium. Coaches rushed to break up the fight. Someone called 911. Blood pooled beneath the tent as students scattered in panic. Austin collapsed onto the grass, gasping for air. Paramedics arrived within minutes. CPR was administered on the field. Austin was rushed to the nearest hospital where doctors attempted emergency surgery, but the wounds were too severe. At 9:12 p.m., Austin Metcalf was pronounced dead. Back at the stadium, police quickly detained Karmelo. The knife was recovered, witnesses gave statements. The tent, once a place for pre-race pep talks and post-race laughs, was now sealed off with crime scene tape. Frisco police later confirmed that Karmelo Anthony was arrested and charged with murder. Due to the violent nature of the crime, prosecutors indicated they would pursue the case in adult court. As the news spread, disbelief turned to sorrow. Austin's teammates were in shock. Students cried openly in hallways the next day. Teachers canceled tests. The school canceled all sports events for the following week. Grief counselors were brought in. And for Austin's family, the world stopped. The moment Austin's mother received the call, everything changed. She had attended dozens of meets. She had cheered from the bleachers, hugged him after races, packed his bags the night before events. But this time the call wasn't to say he'd won, it was to say he was gone. According to close family friends, she collapsed in her kitchen when the hospital informed her of Austin's death. She screamed his name. Her daughter sat silently on the couch, frozen in disbelief. The loss was too sudden, too violent, too unfair. The moment Austin's mother received the call, everything changed. She had attended dozens of meets. She had cheered from the bleachers, hugged him after races, packed his bags the night before events. But this time the call wasn't to say he'd won, it was to say he was gone. According to close family friends, she collapsed in her kitchen when the hospital informed her of Austin's death. She screamed his name. Her daughter sat silently on the couch, frozen in disbelief. The loss was too sudden, too violent, too unfair. Within hours, news outlets picked up the story. Texas teen fatally stabbed at high school track meet. Social media flooded with tributes. Friends posted memories. Teammates shared photos. And hashtags like #JusticeForAustin began trending locally. The family released a short statement through their church. Austin was light. He was purpose. He was love. Our hearts are shattered. We ask for privacy as we grieve the unimaginable loss of our boy. A GoFundMe was set up to help cover funeral costs, and within 48 hours, it had raised over $50,000. As shock turned to outrage, the community demanded answers. How did a student bring a knife into a school athletic event? Where was the supervision? Were there any warning signs? And perhaps most importantly, why did Karmelo Anthony feel the need to bring a weapon to a place of school spirit and competition? Investigators searched his backpack and found no additional weapons or materials. There was no manifesto, no social media rant, no clear indication of a premeditated attack. But the knife, a standard folding blade approximately 4 inches long, had been concealed in his hoodie pocket. As shock turned to outrage, the community demanded answers. How did a student bring a knife into a school athletic event? Where was the supervision? Were there any warning signs? And perhaps most importantly, why did Karmelo Anthony feel the need to bring a weapon to a place of school spirit and competition? Investigators searched his backpack and found no additional weapons or materials. There was no manifesto, no social media rant, no clear indication of a premeditated attack. But the knife, a standard folding blade approximately 4 inches long, had been concealed in his hoodie pocket. In his first interview with police, Karmelo reportedly said, "I didn't think it would go that far." He claimed Austin put hands on him first. But multiple witnesses contradicted that statement. According to at least 3 students, Karmelo initiated the violence. And yet the legal system doesn't move based on social media consensus. It requires evidence and it requires process. Within a week of the incident, Karmelo Anthony appeared before a juvenile judge. He wore a gray jumpsuit. His eyes stayed low. The courtroom was tense. On one side, Austin's family grieving in silence. On the other, Karmelo's mother holding back tears, unsure how to face what her son had done. Within a week of the incident, Karmelo Anthony appeared before a juvenile judge. He wore a gray jumpsuit. His eyes stayed low. The courtroom was tense. On one side, Austin's family grieving in silence. On the other, Karmelo's mother holding back tears, unsure how to face what her son had done. The prosecution moved swiftly. Citing the intentional and lethal use of a weapon, they filed a motion to transfer Karmelo's case from juvenile court to adult court. If approved, Karmelo would face the possibility of life in prison. In Texas, minors as young as 14 can be tried as adults in murder cases. The criteria include the severity of the crime, the maturity of the offender, and whether rehabilitation in the juvenile system seems unlikely. Legal analysts weighed in on local news. "This is not a case of bullying gone wrong or a tragic accident," one said. "This is homicide in a public space. The prosecution will argue that society demands accountability no matter the age." Karmelo's public defender filed a motion to contest the transfer to adult court. Their argument? That Karmelo was not a hardened criminal but a deeply troubled teen with a history of emotional instability and trauma. Court records later revealed that Karmelo had been in and out of counseling since middle school. He had been suspended twice, once for a fight, and once for bringing a vape device to school. He lived with his mother, who worked 2 jobs, and often spent hours alone at home. Karmelo's public defender filed a motion to contest the transfer to adult court. Their argument? That Karmelo was not a hardened criminal but a deeply troubled teen with a history of emotional instability and trauma. Court records later revealed that Karmelo had been in and out of counseling since middle school. He had been suspended twice, once for a fight, and once for bringing a vape device to school. He lived with his mother, who worked 2 jobs, and often spent hours alone at home. In court, his defense attorney argued, "This is a tragedy, no one disputes that, but Karmelo is not beyond help. He made a terrible, impulsive mistake in a moment of panic. We ask the court to consider his mental health history and his lack of violent criminal record." Still, the knife, the act of bringing it to the event, concealing it and using it lethally, posed a serious hurdle. Many in the community asked, if he was scared, why didn't he leave? Why didn't he walk away? As the legal proceedings gained attention, the school district came under fire. How could this happen on school grounds? Were there security measures in place, metal detectors, bag checks? The district superintendent held a press conference promising a full internal review. "We are heartbroken," she said. "We are re-evaluating all safety protocols for student events. We are also increasing our counseling services for students affected by this tragedy." As the legal proceedings gained attention, the school district came under fire. How could this happen on school grounds? Were there security measures in place, metal detectors, bag checks? The district superintendent held a press conference promising a full internal review. "We are heartbroken," she said. "We are re-evaluating all safety protocols for student events. We are also increasing our counseling services for students affected by this tragedy." Parents were divided. Some expressed support for the school, others demanded resignations. Students started a petition asking for better on-site security and mental health resources. At the same time, the community rallied around the Metcalf family. A candlelight vigil was held at the stadium where Austin lost his life. Hundreds gathered, holding signs, lighting candles, and wearing shirts with his photo printed across the chest. A track meet the following week paused for a moment of silence. One teammate ran with Austin's name pinned to her jersey. She finished the race. The courthouse was quiet as the first pretrial hearing began in early May. Media lined the steps. Journalists from across Texas arrived, cameras ready, while police blocked off the entrance to keep crowds under control. Inside, the air was tense. Karmelo Anthony sat beside his defense team, head down, wrists cuffed. He wore a navy suit his mother had borrowed from a neighbor, one of the few attempts to make the boy look less like a criminal and more like a child who had lost control. Austin's family filled the front row. His mother held a photo of her son throughout the hearing, refusing to look away from Karmelo. Over the next several days, witnesses testified, students, coaches, and even a parent who had been standing near the tent when the altercation began. A teammate of Austin's took the stand first. His voice trembled as he recalled the final moments. "Teammate, we were warming up. I heard Austin ask the guy to move. It didn't sound aggressive at first, but Karmelo started yelling. Then it all happened so fast. I saw him reach into his pocket. The next thing I knew, Austin was bleeding." Another student who had known Karmelo since middle school testified to his anger issues. "Student, he was quiet most of the time, but when he snapped, it was scary. He once broke a guy's nose in 8th grade, just snapped." But not all testimony favored the prosecution. One teacher, who had taught Karmelo in the 10th grade, described him as a student fighting personal demons. Teacher, he came to school tired, distracted, but when he was engaged, he was intelligent and kind. I truly believe he didn't want to hurt anyone that day. The complexity of the case became increasingly apparent. Was Karmelo a monster, or a broken boy failed by the system? Outside the courtroom, another trial was unfolding. On social media, TikTok and Instagram flooded with theories, commentary, and emotional tributes. Some influencers amplified the call for justice, posting photos of Austin and demanding Karmelo face adult sentencing. Others, particularly mental health advocates, urged compassion. Mental health advocate, we have to stop criminalizing trauma. He's a kid who made a horrific mistake, but that doesn't mean he's beyond saving. The discourse was divided. Threads debated whether youth violence was rising due to social media pressures, lack of support, or cultural desensitization to violence. One video, an emotional clip of Austin's sister speaking at his memorial, went viral. In it, she said, "Austin's sister, he wasn't perfect, but he was kind. He always made me laugh. He had dreams. And now he's not here. Because someone thought a knife was the answer." The video reached over 3 million views and brought national attention to the case. As the trial continued, Karmelo's defense introduced evidence of untreated mental illness. Court documents revealed that Karmelo had been diagnosed with intermittent explosive disorder and depression. He had seen a school counselor just 6 months before the stabbing, expressing feelings of isolation and hopelessness. His mother testified, her voice shaking. Karmelo's mother, "I tried to get him help, but the wait list was 3 months long. I begged the school, they said he was doing better. I lost my son too, just in a different way." Her testimony hit hard. Even some members of Austin's extended family looked on with visible sympathy. The courtroom was filled with questions that had no easy answers. Why was a clearly struggling teen allowed to slip through the cracks? Why wasn't there more intervention? How many other students are walking the same line between breakdown and tragedy? In closing arguments, the prosecution returned to the facts. Prosecutor, this case is about consequences. It's not about whether he had a hard life. It's not about mental health services that failed him. It's about the knife. It's about the choice to use it. A 17-year-old boy is dead, and the law demands accountability. This wasn't self-defense, this was rage. This was ego. This was deadly force in response to being told to move. The courtroom was still. Austin's mother wiped her eyes. Karmelo sat motionless. The prosecution ended with a photo, Austin in his track uniform, beaming with pride, the same photo used on his funeral program. Justice in cases like this doesn't come with satisfaction. There is no winner, only loss. After weeks of testimony, media attention, and emotional statements from both families, the courtroom finally fell into silence as the jury returned. Karmelo Anthony stood flanked by his defense team. He was no longer the cocky, angry teen seen in old photos. He looked tired, older, like someone who had aged years in a matter of weeks. Austin's family clutched each other's hands. The four-person rose. Four-person, we, the jury, find the defendant, Karmelo Anthony, guilty of second-degree murder. There was no audible reaction, only quiet sobs. Austin's mother broke down in tears. Karmelo's mother pressed her hands to her face, whispering something no one else could hear. The judge thanked the jury and turned to the young man standing before him. Judge, you made a series of choices that led to the death of another young man. Though you are still a teenager, the consequences of your actions are adult. And now, so is your sentence. Karmelo was sentenced to 25 years in prison, with eligibility for parole after 15. For the Metcalf family, justice was bittersweet. They had a verdict, but no outcome would bring Austin back. His mother later told a local reporter, Austin's mother, "I don't hate that boy, I hate what he did. I hope prison helps him understand the weight of his actions. But my son, he's still gone. Every day I wake up and have to remember that." Karmelo's mother visited him in jail 2 weeks after sentencing. She described their conversation as painful but healing. Karmelo's mother, he finally cried. He hadn't cried since it happened. He just kept saying he was sorry, over and over. And I told him, "You have to live with it now. Not just serve time. You have to live with it." Both families, once strangers, now shared a tragic thread in their lives, woven through violence, grief, and the legal system. In the months following the trial, Austin's former school held a dedication ceremony at the track field. In memory of Austin Metcalf, a teammate, a friend, a light that still runs with us. His teammates organized an annual 5K in his honor, donating proceeds to youth mental health services across Texas. Meanwhile, the district began implementing new safety protocols for all sporting events. Bag checks at entrances, increased adult supervision, and on-site counselors at high-stress competitions. Superintendent Lisa Hernandez addressed the changes in a school board meeting. Lisa Hernandez, "We can't undo what happened, but we can learn from it. We owe it to Austin, and we owe it to every student who's ever felt unsafe, unseen, or unheard." This case sparked a broader statewide discussion about teen violence, school safety, and mental health. On talk shows, news segments, and podcasts, experts debated, should more teens be tried as adults? Is the juvenile system doing enough? Are schools equipped to identify red flags before violence erupts? Mental health advocates pushed for legislation to shorten wait times for counseling services in public schools. One proposal, known as the Austin Act, aims to guarantee a mental health screening for any student suspended more than once. As the debate grew, one fact remained clear: the system had failed both boys in different ways. Austin, by not having a safe environment for competition; Karmelo, by falling through cracks too wide to ignore. The story of Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony isn't just about one moment of violence. It's about everything that led up to it. The silence, the stress, the unseen battles inside teenage minds. It's about the importance of early intervention, about the consequences of unchecked emotions, about how quickly lives can change when anger meets opportunity. And ultimately, it's about the power of community. A community that grieved together, fought for change, and promised that this kind of loss wouldn't be in vain. Because if we don't learn from stories like this, we're doomed to repeat them.